Is the Bible true? The external evidence test. In the first test historians use to evaluate literature, called the bibliography test, we looked at how many manuscripts a piece of literature has and the time span between the oldest copy and the original. In the second test, called the internal evidence test, we look at the coherence of a book, whether there are contradictions within itself. This brings us to the third test that historians use. It's called the external evidence test, and it answers questions like these. Can writings be found that substantiate a text's accuracy, reliability, and authenticity? Are there any physical artifacts that support the ancient writing? We first have to acknowledge that the Bible is the most widely referenced and quoted book of all times. And why are people quoting it? Well, let's listen to Norman Geisler, American theologian and philosopher, explain. The Apostolic Fathers give overwhelming support to the existence of the 27 authoritative books of the New Testament. These early Christian writers provide quotations so numerous and widespread that if no manuscripts of the New Testament survive, the New Testament could be reproduced from the writings of the early fathers alone. Scholars have found over 36,000 citations of the New Testament in literature before the 4th century. So people were quoting the Bible because it had become not only the authoritative text of the early church, but because of the evidence that it is the very Word of God. Even if we didn't have the testimony of the Christian writers in the 1st and 2nd century, we would be able to conclude that Jesus existed, was a Jewish teacher, performed miracles and healings, and was rejected by the Jewish leaders. And why would we know all this? Well, all because of non-Christian writers such as Tacitus, Suetonius, Tertullian, Josephus, and Pliny the Younger. It's actually critics who confirm that despite Christ's terrible death by resurrection, his followers believed that Jesus was alive, so that all kinds of people, slave and free, worshipped him as God by the beginning of the 2nd century. But there's even more validating evidence from archaeology. The Old Testament in particular has been regularly and consistently supported by archaeology. It has confirmed such things as the existence of Babylon and King Nebuchadnezzar. The Tower of Babel existed as found on this drawing. Sodom and Gomorrah were real cities, and Balaam of Beor was a real guy. We'll talk more about the findings of archaeology in another video, but for now, let me leave you with an amazing discovery in 1976. An Italian archaeologist discovered the Ebla tablets in Aleppo, Syria. These tablets represented a royal archive of more than 18,000 clay tablets dating from 2400 BC. They give us a glimpse into the lifestyle, vocabulary, commerce, geography, and religion of the people who lived near Canaan, later called Israel, in the time immediately before Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And why was this so important to discover? Well, critics commonly believe that an advanced civilization could not have arisen before 800 BC, but here in these tablets, they were proved wrong. All of these Bible cities existed and were found listed in the tablets: Sodom, Zeboim, Admah, Hazor, Megiddo, Canaan, and Jerusalem. It means that advanced civilizations were present way before 800 BC, like 1600 years before. Let's look further about what archaeology has proven true about the Bible in Part 3, where we'll ask the question, is the Bible trustworthy?